I have already told you this before, stepmother, but I will surely uphold my promises to you in Chapter 21. Just put it out of your mind, because I'm not going back, Lisa said. At least Emily stopped from becoming extremely confrontational because she couldn't see her over the phone. Lisa, stepmother is also doing this for your own good, she remarked with a slightly reassuring tone of voice. The Carter family is amazing in every way. Even though he's an idiot, at least he comes from a good family. Good times are ahead if you tie the knot with him. Upon becoming the young madam, you will be free to purchase anything you wish, as you will no longer be subject to their family's influence. Your sick husband can't even control his own body temperature, let alone you. By that time, the Carter residence will be under your rule. Lisa snorted. Olivia should marry into the family, if it's that amazing. It's because they didn't take a fancy to Olivia. In her heart, Emily thought to herself, let Olivia marry into that family. In the future, Olivia is going to be a genuine young madam. How can she marry into that kind of family? Lisa stated coldly, Stepmother, I'm not interested in being some young madam. I've already requested someone to grab my belongings at home. I shall never return to the Reed residence again. Hearing Lisa be so firm, Emily's voice instantly intensified as she continued, Lisa, do you really want to cut ties with the family? Fine. First, return me all the money I spent on you. When you were little, I put so much effort into growing you up, and now that your wings have stiffened, you want to leave? Dumbfounded, Lisa added, Fine. Putting aside the fact that I waited on all of you like a housekeeper, something I should have received a lot of money for, you have given me a place to live after all. I will progressively repay the money. I owe you by earning it. Lisa, what's wrong with you? Do you think I'm unaware of your machinations? The reason you went to Olivia's production crew is because you still want to compete with her and grasp the opportunity to have Ryan recognize you, right? Stepmother, your imagination is straying way too far. Lisa could not be bothered to explain herself. Emily scolded, Why don't you look at yourself? Which section of you can even compare to Olivia's pinky finger? Yet you still hope that Ryan will take a fancy to you? If you genuinely don't have such thoughts, then immediately back out from the cast. Lisa frowned and continued, Now get this clear. That is my job. I won't listen to you and back out just because you asked me to. Lisa replied. Also, if you're really so scared that I might snatch Ryan from her, then make your daughter look more attractive. What are you threatening me for? When Lisa finished speaking, she slammed the phone down. She lifted her head just to inadvertently see James behind her. His jet-black irises were like deep depths of the sea, captivating and enigmatic. With unease evident openly on her face, she glanced at him and questioned, Why don't you make any sound when you walk? It's basic etiquette to walk quietly. Surely not everyone should be like you, making pointless noises and fussing around. James strode in with his tall legs, his posture excellent. Lisa said in an anxious tone, Yes, you're the most well-mannered person, and I'm the most uncultured. Luckily, we'll be getting a divorce sooner or later. Otherwise, I would absolutely go mad if I had to be educated and be looked down upon for the rest of my life. With his hands folded behind his back, James said, Indeed, it's true. What? I'm the most well-mannered and you're the most uncultured. It's totally true, James said. Lisa shot a smirk at him as she sighed. She then proceeded forward, copying the delicate steps of a lady. Upon viewing this, James's impulse to chuckle almost ruined his calm. Lisa turned around and said, Do you like such a gait? Did I imitate it well? So dumb, he said. With your stupidity, it's no wonder you ended up drugging the wrong person. Hey, didn't we agree not to bring up that matter again? Lisa remarked, her face bursting with rage. James stared at her and wanted to say something but could not resist but ask, Is that Ryan, the man you like? The smile on Lisa's face instantly stiffened dramatically. A touch of deep grief flashed in her eyes. Don't you feel awkward at all talking to your wife about the person she likes? No, he said. Lisa was speechless. Fine, anyway. Yes, actually. It's all right for me to tell you since you don't know him anyway. Not everyone is that lucky to have the person they are drawn to like them back as well. He and I may undoubtedly be termed childhood sweethearts, but tragically, the person he has always cherished is Olivia. When she lifted her head, Lisa's eyes met James's profound ones. At that moment, she felt as if that alluring glance could virtually pierce her body. If you want, I can help you get him. Get him? Lisa gazed at him in surprise. What do you mean? It's exactly what it sounds like. If you wish, I can make him like you and be together with you. James's thick voice was filled with pretentious contempt. Ha! How can you make him like me? Lisa said. James added, for instance, I can make him unable to get engaged to your sister. I can place pressure on him and force him to be with you. Ha! Then forget it, she said rapidly. Why not make him marry Olivia quickly so that people won't all think that I'm trying to snatch him away? I feel really uneasy in the situation. James's brow furrowed. It's not impossible either. But are you sure you want that? I'm already married now. Is it really good for you to be talking to a married woman about this? Looking at his poker face, she hurriedly interrupted him. James said, it doesn't matter. I've expressed it before. I made this marriage happen, thus I can absolutely offer you any restitution you ask for. Apart from money, I may include this as part of the remuneration too. Forget it. Right now, I just feel that I've heard enough of his name. Actually, love is simply one component of existence. My biggest desire is to act and improve myself, career-wise. In this way, better people will be able to see me. Then, I'll be able to meet much better men. As for Ryan, he'll just be a small interlude at most by then. Throughout life, who hasn't encountered a person he or she loved but could not? Have, right? I haven't met such a person, James responded coolly. Fine, Lisa thought as she looked at him speechlessly. But she also recognized that he was talking the truth. Lisa said, all right, I'll go take a shower first. Very well. But if you change your mind, you can tell me anytime. Thank you. Lisa thought to herself that no matter what, he was still trying to help her. James said, it's all right. I'm your husband. It's only right for me to consider your interests. Including helping your wife find her next husband? James, you're simply too nice, Lisa smiled instinctively and said. When James observed her brilliant smile, his eyes paused for a minute before it slid away. That's right. I'll honor every commitment I make to you. Lisa's heart pounded. She tilted her head aside and blinked before smiled weakly. No matter how good he was, he belonged to someone else nevertheless. She was going to divorce him sooner or later. Chapter 22. You're so stupid. How did you survive until now? Lisa entered the bathroom and stripped off her clothing, expecting to shower. The bathroom here was bigger than the living room of her house. Just the hydro massage tub alone felt huge. Enough to swim in. However, she barely utilized the tub since she always felt a little foreign to it. She saw that today the maid had already filled the tub with water that was still hot with steam rising from it. After thinking about it, she removed her clothes and walked into the tub softly. When she submerged herself in the water, sure enough, she felt considerably more tranquil. Then, she recalled her stepmother's statements, and then James's. Ryan was about to marry Olivia. She initially met Ryan in school. He was the captain of the drum corps and she was a drummer. Because of an injury, he brought her back to the Carter residence. With his then small and fragile body, he carried her body. That was slightly overweight owing to baby fat on his back all the way home. When they approached the Carter residence, he was soaked in sweat. The image tugged at her heartstrings, and at the moment, she believed that he was the one who treated her the finest in this world. At that time, they were still primary school kids. He also began receiving frequent playtime invitations from the Carter family once they realized that he was genuinely the second young master of the Hayes household. Unexpectedly, this was how he met Olivia. She soaked herself in the bath till her entire body was sluggish to the point of falling asleep. When she got up, she merely felt a sudden confusion before she sank down into the tub. A splash of water resounded. James heard the disturbance from outside and swiftly ran over. He swung open the door only to see Lisa fighting hard to wriggle out of the tub. Her face was flushed scarlet and was shrouded by the fog. She looked terribly unwell. Shocked, James forgot everything else and came forward immediately to pull her out. As if she had held onto a straw that could save her life, Lisa wound both her arms around his neck. Her humid body rubbed firmly on his chest and making his clothing quite wet. In big strides, James carried Lisa out with a few steps. He laid her on the bed and patted her face. "What happened to you? Lisa? Wake up!" Lisa gasped for air. Only then did her muddled and dizzy thoughts begin to gradually recover. Standing before her was James with his brows firmly furrowed and his expression full of fear. Her heart hammered for no reason when she saw that. "I'm all right. I simply feel a little dizzy." She held her hand to her cheek. "What were you doing?" James inquired in a puzzled tone. "It's probably because I've never really taken a bath before. I felt like doing it today, but in the end, I was laying there for too long. I had felt a little dizzy while in the water, but I didn't expect the sense of vertigo when I stood up. So that was what had happened." James's concerns basically evaporated. It was only after he straightened his body somewhat that he noticed Lisa was naked. The beautiful expanse of her skin was tinged pink due to the warm water bath. Under the conditions, the contours of her curvaceous body showed before his eyes even more vividly. Her chest area, in particular, was shining with water, making it tough to overlook. James's heart pounded. He felt a rush of heat go through his brain, and in an instant, his lower abdomen followed and began to expand. Forcing himself to gaze away from her body, he snatched up the blanket and covered her with it. Lisa also realized that something was off with her. Her face was presently so red that it seemed like it was going to bleed. She gripped the blanket with a fatal grasp, and her heart was racing in her chest. "Have you never had a bath?" James said, "I can't believe you can faint from taking a short bath." Lisa said, "Of course. You presume everyone is like you and born with a silver spoon in their mouths? When I was in the Carter residence, I stayed in the housekeeper's room the whole time. Of course, there was no place for me to take a bath." James gazed deep into her eyes. "How do you feel now?" Lisa scowled at him. "Turn around. I'll be putting on clothes." James was impelled to turn around. "I've already seen what I should see. You..." Lisa's cheeks heated up with wrath and her little face began to swell up. Only when she put on her attire with lightning speed did she feel a little sense of security. James pulled his head back to look at her. Her little face was still dark red, and her lips had been wet until they were even poutier. When she cleaned her saturated hair with a towel, several droplets of water poured downwards along her hair and landed across her white neck. His throat bobbed. Following this, he saw his body temperature increasing slowly. At that moment, his cell phone abruptly started ringing. He lifted his phone and saw Emily's name flash on the screen. After letting out a dry cough, he shifted his eyes away from her and picked up the call. "Emily, what's up?" he asked. When Lisa heard Emily, she also turned her head to look at James, who heard Emily say over the phone, "James, I went back and thought about it. I spoke too impulsively today." "Don't be angry," James said. "No, I can understand. I'm not angry," Emily remarked gently. "I got angry only because I love you too much. We've been together for so many years. You understand me best. I lack a sense of security. I grow afraid knowing that you are together with her. I know that you've always been used to doing things without offering any middle ground or loopholes for the other person. You were simply thinking about the benefits for the both of us. I was too insensible." When he heard Emily say this, James said, "You weren't, Emily. From the beginning, I've been the one who hasn't been doing enough. It's because I still haven't done enough. That's also why you don't get a sense of security. Regardless, no matter what decision you make, I will still support you. You know that I will always be on your side." "Thank you, Emily," he said. By this time, Lisa had already cleansed her hair with the towel and was going to get the blow dryer. When she moved her leg, she felt a bit of soreness and believed to herself that she must have hurt it due to the earlier fall. She let out a scream of pain and froze in her tracks. Noticing her small motions, James stepped over with a frown. "What happened?" "It's nothing. I may have ruined it previously. I'll just get some ointment to rub on it," Lisa said, as she stood up and held onto the table for support. James gazed at her deeply for a long time. When he noted that she still wanted to move, he stepped a few steps closer to her and murmured, "Stop, don't move carelessly." As he stated this, he placed his arm across her waist without hesitation and raised her in his arms. Ay-yo! Both her legs left the ground in an instant. As she glanced at James's fearless face from this position, the features of his face were well defined and his jawline was shockingly lovely. Combined with his deep and penetrating eyes, his entire body was outrageously stunning. Lisa responded, "What are you doing? Stay still and don't move." "How stupid," he said while looking down to glare at her. Lisa's heart hammered, but knowing that he was helping her, she stayed perfectly still. James said, "It's so strange. How did you manage to exist for so many years until now if you can get injured to this level from merely taking a bath?" Lisa said defiantly. "I'm used to living in hard times. I truly can't appreciate the life of a young madam, all right?" James looked up and sneered at her again. "Then start getting used to it now, since you'll have to be a young madam for a few more years." Lisa's heart heated up again. When she thought of living together with him for a few more years, she just felt that it was a little silly. Chapter 23. I'm your husband. It's only right that I should look after you. Ryan touched the bell on the side while adding to her, "If you need anything, don't move. Just press this and a maid will come." It was his first time explaining these topics to her directly. For the past few days, she had remained unaware that such things even existed. She glanced at the button at the head of the bed and said in wonder, "Being rich is just great. You can lie on the bed for a whole day without moving and you still wouldn't die of hunger." Ryan glanced at her. "Right now, you're also a rich person." "I'm not at all," Lisa said. Ryan remarked, "With a husband as wealthy as me, of course, you're a rich person." When Lisa heard this, she felt a tingling warmth in her chest. But then again, she remembered that it would only be for a few years, so she paused a bit before responding, "Forget it. If I genuinely develop too adapted to it, then I won't be able to get used to having a bad life once we divorce." Ryan glanced at her in frustration. "You think too much?" "Of course." Ryan paused for a minute, stared at her, and responded, "Don't worry. I'll pay you a substantial chunk of money even after we divorce. I won't enable you live a tough life again." Upon hearing this, Lisa could not help but smile. We'll see what happens then. For some weird reason, Ryan was annoyed by her words. Then the maid came in. Ryan instructed the maid to grab him some ointment. Soon, the ointment was brought over. Just as Lisa was sharing her ideas about how life was so comfortable for rich people, Ryan had already crouched down and pulled up her leg with one hand. Shocked, Lisa struggled instinctively and said, "There's no need. I'll do it myself." "Don't move." Ryan frowned. He raised his head and glared sternly at this insolent woman. Ryan said, "Since you already fell, just stay still." Lisa could only freeze where she was. She gazed on as he took the ointment carefully with his long and slender hands and held her ankle. With his head slightly bowed, he rubbed ointment on her ankle. She could not help but feel warmth swelling in her chest. A serious man was obviously more handsome. She felt that in his half-crouched stance, he simply looked wonderfully sensuous and seductive. She inadvertently smiled and responded, "I can do it myself too." "You're not used to being taken care of by other people either?" He raised his head. Lisa said, "Yes, I'm already used to looking after myself." Ryan gazed at her with his deep eyes. "I'm your husband. It's clearly written in the agreement. Apart from the fact that we shouldn't mess with each other's love lives, we must live like a normal couple in all other parts of marriage life." Lisa grinned as she glanced at him. She immediately felt that there was in reality nothing wrong about marrying him. Although his heart belonged to someone else, their days together may still be labeled enjoyable and memorable. Ryan carefully rubbed the ointment on her. Although she was tall, she was not heavy at all. When he was carrying her earlier, he felt that she was exceedingly light and virtually weightless. When he glanced again at her little and lengthy legs, He felt even more strongly that she was exceedingly slender. Her little feet were exquisite and gorgeous, and each toe was incredibly round and plump. As his fingers brushed lightly over them, it was as if his heart had also been stroked lightly till it became numb. When Lisa saw that his movements had halted, she looked down and inquired, "What happened? Is there a problem?" Ryan raised his head. "Oh, no. It's fine now." After shifting his gaze away from her toes, he stood up and walked out clutching the first aid kit. Lisa dropped her head and took a look at her wound. Ryan definitely did everything carefully. Even the ointment was done beautifully. When Lisa viewed this, she was actually captivated. Fortunately, there was only a minor bruise on the wound. The next day, she was back to leaping and frisking around. Soon her television drama began filming. That day, Lisa headed to the filming site rather early. When she was done putting on her outfit, the cast had already come one after another. Naturally, Nathan came pretty late. The instant he entered, a noisy and raucous swarm of people followed behind him. A small helper at the side dropped her head on her hands as she commented in a love-struck tone, "Nathan looks more handsome in person than on television." Yes. His face is much smaller in person, and his gaze is more alluring. Lisa lifted her head and took a peep. She felt he was incredibly handsome. The Ryan family's genes were certainly good. It was now Lisa's turn to go up front and do a dry run first, so she frantically lowered her dress and ran over. Wearing a historic costume was a little hard, especially considering this was a show with a significant budget. The tailored clothing were really elaborate and ornate. It was pretty tough to just walk with the garments weighing heavy on their bodies. As Lisa hurried over noisily, she fell on something in a moment of carelessness. "Aya, you stepped on our Sarah's dress." Lisa only noticed when she heard someone shout out. When she looked back, she observed Sarah raising her dress. She looked at Lisa and smiled, adding, "It's all right." Lisa apologized passionately and continued, Sorry, Sister Sarah." Sarah stared at Lisa. "You're the rookie acting as Chen Yihan?" Lisa replied swiftly, "Yes, Sister Sarah." Sarah had a wonderful temper. She caressed Lisa's shoulder and observed, "You're really not bad. I look favorably upon you. I'm cheering you on." Having obtained encouragement, Lisa stared at Sarah with tremendous enjoyment. "Thank you, Sister Sarah." Very shortly after, Sarah left, joined by her assistant and crew. The people behind her gazed at Lisa with lingering anxiety. "Why weren't you a little more careful?" Luckily, Sarah is known to be highly mature and she has a good temper. Lisa's impression of her was quite good as well. She nodded and added, "Yes, she has a really good temper." No wonder she's so famous. In this market, you don't simply need a terrific face. It's also about social skills. Lisa finished, recording her sequences very shortly. Because filming had barely commenced, the clips she had filmed were in parts and pieces. When she was done, she pulled herself a chair and found a place to relax and rest. She was a tiny actor, unlike others who had assistants and managers looking after them. On the other side, sitting alone felt wonderfully comfy. She appeared pretty, serious as she read the script and pondered about the future narrative. Having just finished recording, Nathan looked over to discover Lisa sitting alone. With her head lowered while she read the information, he thought she looked incredibly amusing. He gestured for them to stop and told his aide, "I'm not going to the resting room. Is there space there? Shift the chair over there for me and I'll sit there." The assistant hesitated before adding anxiously to Nathan, "Nathan, that's the resting area for small actors." "I'm a small actor too. Do what I advise you to do." "Don't spit worthless nonsense," Nathan said while already starting to walk over. "Hey, Lisa." He lowered his head and beckoned her. Lisa raised her head. When she realized that it was Nathan, she was astonished and quickly stood up. "Senior Nathan? Hey, don't move. Sit down. We have scenes together later." "I came to rehearse the lines with you." "Oh, okay, Senior Nathan, but do we have scenes together later?" She recalled that their scenes were to be filmed tomorrow. Nathan smiled and nodded. I'm free today, so we're filming one more scene. Today." Lisa did not mistrust him. She gazed at Nathan and picked up her writing. Chapter 24. This lass is really very lucky. Lisa took it seriously and began to earnestly practice the screenplay with him. Nathan raised his head now and then to look at her, but noticed that she did not even afford him a glance and actually disregarded him as if he was invisible. James placed his chin on one hand and continued to scrutinize Lisa in depth. When Lisa realized that he had stopped, she lifted her head and inquired in a perplexed tone, "Nathan, why are you looking at me?" Nathan questioned, "Do you think I'm ugly?" Dumbfounded, Lisa said, "No way." Nathan asked, "Then why don't you ever look at me?" Lisa pointed to her own script. "But I have to look at the script. So it's true you don't like me. Did I generate a horrible impression on you?" Nathan thought to himself. Was he not as stunning as the script? Taken surprised, Lisa answered, "How can it be? I've always liked you very much, Nathan. You're the role model of the industry. I admire you a lot. My regard towards you is essentially like a gushing river that flows endlessly." Nathan said, "If that's true, then you should start following me and loitering behind me from tomorrow. Serve me tea, get me water, make me oatmeal, and cook my meals." Lisa said, "Huh?" James said, "Isn't that what you should do?" Lisa responded, "But if I do all of these things, won't your assistant have to step down?" Ha ha ha. So you're doing this out of consideration for other people? Yes, yes. Otherwise, I truly would have started following you around. I'm serious, Nathan, Nathan said. All right, I'll grudgingly believe you. Lisa hurriedly projected a patronizing smile. Nathan commented, "Enough. You look even uglier than if you were to cry." Lisa ended up sporting a poker face. She found speaking with him in such a casual manner actually fairly pleasant. Nathan was a little different. From what the rumors said, he did not look that tough to get along with, so she had no idea why entertainment reports all stated that he did not like conversing, did not like contacting people, and was particularly difficult to get along with in person. From interacting with him, he was actually extremely pleasant. Nathan only stood up when it was his turn to film again. He expressly told the director that he was free today, so they could film tomorrow's scenes with Lisa today as well. His relationships with Lisa had no overtones of romanticism. They were more like friendliness among siblings. Having trained for quite some time, they were already familiar with their lines and completed filming nearly in one take. The director hurriedly congratulated Nathan by remarking, "Nathan's acting is simply great. He finished filming in one take with no hesitation." Nathan was long used to hearing compliments like this. Nonchalantly, he received the water that his assistant gave to him and took a drink of it before replying, "No way. I think Lisa's acting is extremely good. There is a lot of chemistry when I work with her. She's not bad." His set of almond eyes curved as he stared at Lisa. Beside them, the director froze. Then he promptly said to Lisa, Yes, it was precisely this feature of hers that we took a liking to. Although she's a newbie, her acting is really not horrible. She has potential." Upon hearing this, Lisa smiled at Nathan gratefully. A little encouragement from someone in her early days as an actress really made her happy for a long time. "Thank you, Nathan." "Thank you, director," she quickly said. Nathan looked at Lisa. "Why are you calling me Nathan? Just call me Nate." Lisa grinned as she glanced at Nathan. She felt much more firmly that he was a genuinely decent person. About the other side, the director was behind them pondering about what had just happened. He glanced at her intently and concluded that this small lady was extremely blessed. How could it be that the generally unapproachable Nathan was so attentive towards her after knowing her for such a short time? When he initially chose her, it was merely because he thought that her photo was quite suitable. She was refreshing to look at and difficult to forget. But he did not expect Nathan to treat her that carefully. The second the filming ended, James called out of the blue and asked Lisa where she was. Bewildered, Lisa questioned, "What do you want?" James said, "I'm coming to pick you up." Lisa halted before hastily handing him the address. She did not expect James to emerge to send her home. Very soon after, James arrived. Today, he was driving a less remarkable black Bentley that looks like it was designed for business. However, the license plate was still bright. The plate number was 12321. What kind of horrible taste was this? Lisa got into the car and said, "What made you think of picking me up?" James glanced at her. She had just finished her scenes, so she still had makeup on. She appeared like a water lotus that was extraordinarily exquisite and attractive. Looking aside, he added, "Oh, the Carter family wants me to bring you back, so I came to pick you up." Lisa thought, "That explains it." But he did not have to explain it so clearly, though. Lisa sat down comfortably and said, "Why do they want me to go back so suddenly? Is it actually all right if I go back?" James added, "You'll have to meet them sooner or later. What are you worried about?" Lisa said, "What if they don't like me?" James glanced at her. "They will." They would like anyone as long as it was not Emily, James thought. The Carter family mansion was larger than James's place. It felt like a composite of linked courtyards, and it unavoidably made her feel highly agitated. Seemingly picking up on her anxiety, James stated to her, "My family members won't eat you up." "Just relax," Lisa continued. "It's my first time meeting my in-laws. Of course I'll be nervous." James smiled. "So you have your nervous moments too. That's rare." Lisa scowled at him. "Of course. I mentioned that I'm highly professional. Since I agreed to be your wife, I will surely fulfill my duties. As for these tasks, they also require making your family members like me." Then she saw the enormous metal gates inside opening and the butler walking out to welcome them. "Second young master, young madam." The butler softly escorted them in. As she glanced at the heavy security inside, she instantly felt much more concerned. After entering the property, the interior design was modern and the marble flooring were dazzling. Before they had taken even a few steps, an extraordinarily attractive lady walked towards them. "You're Lisa? We've finally met. James has hidden you away too strictly the past few days. Otherwise, I would have gone over and met you from the start," she said as she grabbed Lisa's hand passionately. James made introductions from the side. "This is my mother." When Lisa heard this, she quickly grinned and remarked, "Mother." Upon hearing this, a smile immediately erupted on Sarah's face. Good daughter-in-law. You called me mother. I must give you a red packet too." As she said this, the maid came up to her from the side and handed over a red packet that had been made earlier. Lisa was shocked and felt a little ashamed. James merely stood there and silently nodded to her. She could only take it as she thought to herself, "This is probably a formality in their household." Thus she grinned and responded, "Thank you, mother. Okay, come, let me introduce you to everyone." Sarah drew Lisa aside and brought her to an old man with a head of white hair who appeared dignified at first impression. She told Lisa to address him grandfather. Lisa followed suit and called him grandfather. She also heard James gently call him grandfather from the side. Soon after, her hands were loaded with another stack of red packets. Richard stared at Lisa. Although it was their first time meeting, his attention froze on her eyes in happiness. Before he nodded and added, "Nice lady, live well with James." Chapter 25. I spoiled it, so it must be mine. "Bring young madam downstairs to change her clothes first," Sarah stated again from behind him as he spoke this. James lacks consideration. What a hardship it would be for her to wear this at home. Her clothes are too snug. The maid immediately and pleasantly took Lisa to her changing room. From inside, James observed Richard comment, "This lady is not bad," and then he watched her exit. James asked, "Do you think Emily isn't bad because it's not her?" James attracted Richard's eye. "She emits an air of effortless beauty the instant you lay eyes on her. She's a good woman. That Emily of yours is like heaven on earth compared to the other." Sarah also grinned and remarked, "Yes, I like this lass from the moment I saw her. Your grandfather has never complimented anyone. If he says she's good, she must be exceedingly good." Sarah's statements were very truthful. Richard was critical towards persons. He would not easily hand out compliments. It was very exceptional that Lisa could persuade Richard open his mouth and give her a compliment. James could not think that Lisa would so readily gain the affection of his family members. Sarah just said, "Since you're here anyway, just stay for the night." Lisa was shocked. She instantly looked towards James but did not anticipate him to answer without any hesitation. "Okay." At that moment, Lisa simply felt a string of question marks flying over her consciousness. It was only after James took Lisa into his room and Lisa watched the two doors close that she lifted her head and asked James, "Why do we have to stay? Here?" James said. "Is there anything inappropriate about staying here?" "Of course. I'm so unused to staying here." James glanced at her. "What else can we do? If we tell them that we want to return home, won't it draw a bit of attention to what we're trying so hard to hide?" Lisa said, We can say that we're blissful newlyweds and we make too much noise at night, so we're worried about disturbing them." James said, "The room is completely soundproof. There is no such problem." Lisa was totally speechless. As she glanced at him, she thought to herself, that was exactly what she meant. In any event, it would have been wiser to discover any random excuse, but instead, he had replied so solemnly. Lisa could only glance at him before moving her head to sweep her eyes across the room. Its size could not compare to that of the main residence. It was a suite with a bedroom within. There was a small study space outdoors, a big executive chair, and no couch. Lisa gripped her forehead gloomily and pondered about how they were to sleep for the night. However, James had already removed his jacket. He looked at the bed and responded to her, "I'll sleep on the floor tonight. You sleep on the bed." Upon hearing this, Lisa's heart skipped a beat. She did not expect him to directly suggest sleeping on the floor. It made her a little touched, but she was also humiliated. "Why don't I sleep on the floor? Anyway, I only need to lie on additional blankets." As she remarked this, she proceeded to the wardrobe and opened it. She discovered rows of his diverse clothing hanging inside. She decided that they were really stunning and looked extremely expensive. However, there was not a single blanket. Good heavens, his family must have done this on purpose. Refusing to believe it, Lisa responded, "I probably can't sleep on the floor. There's only one bed, so why don't we ask someone to send in another set?" "Are you trying to tell them clearly that we sleep on separate beds? Then what do we do now?" Upon observing her eagerness to keep her distance from him, James could not help but feel a little annoyed. He removed his jacket and threw it instantly upon the bed. He said, "I don't care what you do, but I'm going to sleep anyway." Lisa glanced at him. This gentleman had just stated previously that he would sleep on the floor, but now that he understood that there were no covers, he was about to fight for the bed. "No, I want to sleep on the bed too. You were the one who insisted on staying here, so think of a means to repair this." She could not comprehend that he could not meet these difficulties. As she stated this, she sprang onto the bed directly, burrowed under the sheets, and rolled back and forth once across the bed. Then she lifted her chin towards him with a look full of defiance. "Right now, the bed is completely covered with my smell, the bacteria on my body, and everything else. Do you still want to sleep here?" While saying this, she even licked her palm and put it all over the covers as she refused to be exceeded. James's face darkened. "Lisa, what are you doing?" Lisa lifted her head. "What? You haven't seen how dogs claim their territory? They only piss on it to prove that it's theirs. I'm doing the exact same thing right now. Now, this bed is mine." James pointed at the blanket. "I'm referring to what you were doing just now, wiping off my drool. Why? Do you want some?" Just the thought of how she had wiped her drool on the blanket made James feel uneasy. He shot a sharp glare at her, whirled around, ripped open the door, and walked out. Lisa immediately started laughing out loud in the room. "You admitted defeat so easily, James. You're not good enough." Feeling smug, she rolled about on the bed. However, she quickly noticed the door opening again, and James came in without hesitation. His eyes fixed on her forcibly and made her feel slightly guilty for a second. She stepped backward. "Hey, James, what are you doing?" "I was merely kidding earlier," she said quickly. But she watched as James hopped onto the bed swiftly, dragged Lisa over, and easily slung her over his shoulder. James's body was exceptionally powerful. He was definitely tall and well-built. When he genuinely took action, his actions were elegant and efficient. On his shoulder, Lisa was struggling recklessly. "James, what are you doing? Let go of me." She hit him with her small hands, but they were of no help. The door opened and Lisa was suddenly propelled out of the bedroom and into the small study area outside. As she watched the door close in front of her eyes, Lisa beat on the door furiously. "James, are you a man or not? You're struggling with a woman over a bed." "Sorry, I can't tell which part of you is like a woman," James said honestly. Even enraged, Lisa felt as if her lungs were ready to ignite on fire. "Yes, I... Don't behave like a woman. Your Emily is the most feminine person there is," James said openly. "That's true." Lisa felt stifled when she heard this. "Then why don't you go look for her? You can't do that, so you're just going to bully me instead?" Hearing her say this, James felt very annoyed. He just said, "You think that if I could, I would still be here now?" You. Outside, Lisa gazed at her surroundings. There was simply a big executive chair that was impossible for her to sleep on. On the other hand, the high-quality carpet was pretty nice. She sat down on it and tested it out. It was incredibly soft too. However, she could not just sleep here like this. "James, you really have the heart to make me sleep here? It's quite cold here." Inside the room, James's emotions faded as well when he heard Lisa's tone relaxing. However, as he stared at the bed that she had messed up utterly, he was overtaken with wrath again. He walked over and lifted the blanket. Indeed, her aroma still lingered on the blanket, although it was slightly stimulating, enough to make his heart flutter. How can there be a husband who treats his own wife like this? "James, are you really so cruel?" James ripped away the blanket and recalled that she had even dispersed her drool on it. Lisa laid there, thinking to herself in disappointment, "James, just you wait.